What happens when a Filipino P-pop group walks onto one of Japan's biggest music festival stages and suddenly finds itself in front of thousands of people from completely different backgrounds? For SB19, the answer was unforgettable. After years of building their name in the Philippines and gradually expanding their international reach, SB19 arrived in Japan for Summer Sonic 2026 with something to prove, not necessarily that they belonged on a Japanese festival stage, but that they could make people remember them once they got there. And when the members stepped onto the Summer Sonic Tokyo stage, they didn't simply perform. They created a moment. The crowd reacted. The cameras came out. Fans began sharing clips. And suddenly, SB19's appearance became another important chapter in their growing international story. But here's what makes this performance so interesting. Summer Sonic isn't an SB19 concert. The audience wasn't there specifically to see only them. Some people already knew SB19. Some were Otten. Others may have discovered the group through their earlier activities in Japan. But there were also festival attendees who may have known little or nothing about the Filipino group before they appeared on stage. That difference changes everything. At an SB19 concert, the members can expect thousands of fans who already know the songs, the choreography, the members, and the story behind the group. A major festival is completely different. You have a limited amount of time. You have to capture attention quickly. And you have to make an impression on people who may have never heard your music before. That is why Summer Sonic Tokyo was such an important opportunity for SB19. They weren't simply performing for people who already loved them. They were performing for potential new listeners. And that is where the real power of a festival appearance comes from. Think about someone walking through Summer Sonic. They may have arrived with a schedule. They may have already chosen the artists they wanted to watch. Then they hear music coming from another stage. They look over. They see 5 Filipino performers commanding the stage. The choreography catches their attention. The vocals stand out. The crowd begins reacting. And suddenly, they stop. That simple moment can become the beginning of a new fan journey. They may not know the names of the members yet. They may not know what P-pop means. They may not know how long SB19 has been working toward this moment. But they can still recognize a powerful performance. And that is exactly what SB19 had to deliver. The Tokyo appearance was also important because it followed several other major steps in Japan. Before the festival, SB19 had already appeared on Japanese television, giving Japanese viewers an opportunity to see the members away from the concert stage. That television appearance helped introduce their personalities. Then Summer Sonic provided something completely different. Now Japanese audiences could see SB19 in their natural environment, the live stage. That combination is powerful. Television can introduce an artist. Media exposure can create curiosity. But a live performance can turn curiosity into genuine interest. And SB19 had the opportunity to do exactly that in Tokyo. The significance becomes even clearer when you consider Japan's music environment. Japan has a massive and highly developed entertainment industry, with its own artists, fan communities, media platforms, and musical culture. Breaking into a market like that isn't something an artist accomplishes with one appearance. It takes time. It requires consistency. It requires people to remember your name. And most importantly, it requires audiences to have a reason to look for you again. That is why Summer Sonic matters. SB19 wasn't simply visiting Japan. They were becoming visible within Japan's major festival environment. And that is a very different position. There is another reason this performance matters for Filipino music. SB19 wasn't carrying only their own name onto that stage. They were also carrying P-pop. For years, Filipino music fans have talked about the potential of Filipino artists reaching international audiences. The Philippines has always produced talented singers, performers, musicians, and entertainers. But talent alone doesn't automatically create global recognition. An artist has to be seen. They have to be heard. They have to perform in front of new audiences. And eventually, people outside the home market have to start talking about them. SB19's international festival appearances are helping create those opportunities. Every stage gives them another chance to introduce Filipino pop music to people who might never have searched for it on their own. And Summer Sonic Tokyo was another one of those stages. What makes the moment even more exciting is the footage that started appearing afterward. Fan-recorded videos gave audiences outside Japan a look at what happened inside the festival. These clips weren't necessarily perfect. Some were filmed from far away. Some had crowd noise. Some captured only part of a song. But sometimes those imperfections make fan footage even more meaningful. You can hear the audience. You can see the stage. You can watch the members interacting with the crowd. And you can feel the atmosphere of the moment. For often around the world, those clips became a way to experience the performance even without being physically present. And that's another major advantage of an international festival appearance. The performance doesn't end when the members leave the stage. The audience leaves with videos. Fans upload clips. People share reactions. Others repost performances. Someone who wasn't even following SB19 may suddenly see a short video on social media. And then comes the most important question. Who are they? That question is powerful. Because curiosity is often the first step toward discovery. Someone searches SB19. They find Gento. They find Mappa. They discover other performances. They watch interviews. They see the group's previous international appearances. They learn about their journey. And what started as a few seconds of a festival performance can turn into hours of discovery. That is how global audiences are built. Not necessarily through one giant explosion, but through thousands of small discoveries happening at the same time. And Tokyo gave SB19 another opportunity to create those discoveries. Of course, it would be too much to claim that every person at Summer Sonic suddenly became an SB19 fan. That's not how festivals work. Not every viewer becomes a supporter. Not everyone who watches a performance will immediately stream the music. But the goal doesn't have to be converting everyone. The goal is to create an impression. If someone leaves the festival remembering the name SB19, that's already meaningful. If they later search for a song, that's even better. If they follow the group, watch another performance, or recommend them to a friend, the impact continues. And that is why the Tokyo reaction matters more than simply asking whether the performance was good. The bigger question is, did SB19 give Japanese audiences a reason to remember them? Based on the footage and reactions circulating around the performance, the answer appears to be yes. And this is where the idea of a Summer Sonic takeover becomes interesting. A takeover doesn't necessarily mean dominating every artist on the lineup. It doesn't mean officially becoming the biggest act of the festival. There was no official ranking declaring SB19 the #1 performance. Instead, the phrase describes something more meaningful for fans, the feeling that SB19 walked onto a major Japanese stage and left an impression. They arrived as an international Filipino act. They performed. They connected with the audience. And afterward, people continued talking about the moment. That is progress. And there is another important factor, SB19's timing. Their international expansion is happening across multiple markets. They have already experienced major festival exposure in the United States, including Lollapalooza Chicago. Now they are building their presence in Japan through television, festival performances, and fan activities. This creates a pattern. SB19 isn't relying on one country or one opportunity. They're gradually creating an international footprint. And that can completely change how people view an artist. There is a difference between saying, SB19 is a Filipino group that performs internationally, and saying, SB19 is an international festival act from the Philippines. That second description carries a different weight. It suggests that international stages are no longer unusual for them. They are becoming part of the journey. And Summer Sonic Tokyo adds another important piece to that story. But perhaps the most exciting part is what comes next. Because the real value of an international performance is often measured after the performance. Will Japanese listeners search for SB19? Will more people discover their music? Will Japanese media continue covering them? Could future collaborations become possible? Could SB19 return to Japan for larger concerts? Could their next Japanese appearance attract an even bigger audience?